In a world where information seems to travel at the speed of light and traffic at a snail's pace, where the agenda of those at the helm doesn't always reflect the pressures on the streets, where the rubber hits the road, where there's queue of issues needing to be interrogated in the name of speaking truth to power.
Welcome to a place at the table,
where we set the agenda,
table the issues that matter to you,
and invite you to take a seat at the table.
Welcome to a place at the table. Today I'm asking, are women being rejected when it comes to positions in political office, or are they being excluded before the vote is even cast? Is the ceiling made of glass or some more resistant material? Ronke?
Yinka, whether glass or steel, we are dealing with man-made structures, just like roles and motherhood. In fact, let me shatter one of them by saying a child doesn't have to come from you to belong to you.
Well, while we're thinking beyond boundaries or even glass ceilings, let me throw you a challenge. I'm saying talent alone cannot build a globally competitive creative industry because talent needs an ecosystem.
Funke, you speak of a global creative economy. I'll be spotlighting the street economy run by the area boys of Lagos who practice what I choose to call taxtortion.
Extortion, Kingsley, that sounds very interesting. Every symptom points to a cause. Area boys are an expression of the system of meritocracy, flipped upside down. Some call it entitlement. We have religiously branded it unmerited favor.
Unmerited favor. You know you've come to the right place when the conversation is going beyond boundaries and shattering, not just glass ceilings, but unproductive mindset. Settle down. It's time to think outside the box. For years, the story has stayed the same. Nigerians don't vote for women. With only 72 out of 1,534 electoral positions in 2023 won by women, you can understand the sentiment. But have we interrogated this question? Victor's Africa, in his voters' preference survey, covering 102 out of 109 territorial districts, provides an answer. According to the survey, only 3 in 10 voters say they've voted for a woman since 1999. 69% never have. Before you conclude that Nigeria rejects women in politics, listen to why. 51% of that 69% gave the same reason. There was no woman on the ballot, or they never knew she was running, mostly because the names, faces, or gender of the candidates were never on the ballot. That's not rejection. That is exclusion before the vote was ever cast. And yet, something is shifting. Asked about 2027, 64% of voters, more than double the historical figure, said they will vote for a woman. Many who never supported a woman before are now saying, this time, I will. But this comes with conditions. 55% of these voters are merit-first voters. They want a track record, clear policies, and credibility. Only 17% are moved mainly by party or identity. So the ceiling on how far a woman candidate rises is not really about her gender. It's about whether she's seen and whether she's allowed to prove herself. One more number is worth analyzing. So support for women falls by nearly 20% as the office gets higher, from 80% for the House of Reps to just 60% for president. It appears we are more comfortable handing women influence than handing them ultimate power. So the honest question for 2027 is not, will Nigerians vote for a woman? It is, will our parties put her on the ballot? Would they let voters see her? And with Peru just electing its first female president, Keiko Fujimori, would we interrogate why the highest office still feels like the hardest ceiling to break. Representation doesn't begin at the ballot box. It begins with who is allowed on the ballot.
Some years back, I wanted to contest for the president of my secondary school alumni association. You know, I actually wasn't even planning to contest. They were just talking about, and then someone was like, oh, they nominated me. And then someone was like, no, a woman can't be the president, that she can only be the vice president. And that alone triggered me to contest. You know, and that was how I got the moniker Madam President. Of course, I won, you know. What I'm saying is there is a cap on women's ambition, and there is a huge cap on women's audacity. The society wants women to aspire to be more, but they don't want them to aspire to be a lot. They want women to speak for them, to speak up for them. So, but don't particularly want women to speak up for others at scale. So at the core of it, there are sociological and environmental barriers. I'm going to talk about the putting women on the ballot. You know, when it comes to voting, you are voting for the party, not the individual, because there's a party
obviously
that is on the ballot paper. Talking about president, long. I mean, we haven't even had a Senate president. We haven't had a governor. The only governor we've ever had was due to impeachment and was just for about 3 months. We have never elected a woman governor in Nigeria. So yes, I agree with your advocacy on the fact that the higher the position goes, the lower the likelihood to vote for women. And then there are also religious barriers to all of this. There was a time a particular gubernatorial aspirant was nominated in the States, and then the religious leader said, so they will go and bend down for a woman. And then they also considered the governor as the religious leader for the state. So it's what's it called? It's heat day, and then they will say the governor is on a period, so she will not be able to participate. So there's a inadequate women representation in political office, so that it's so systemic, it is embedded in our culture. And we need to do better. And it starts from women, for one, be a lot more audacious, be a lot more ambitious, not just for you, but for your children. You are raising daughters, and they need to know that there is no limit to what it is they can achieve for themselves.
Because your monologue made the distinction between rejection and exclusion. So if they're not seeing women on the ballot, it means that women are not actually represented. If you can't find the face, you can't find the names, you can't find the gender, there is no representation at where it matters most. So that brings the central question, really, from this monologue, and is that who is building the ceiling? And who keeps deciding how high women can, are allowed to rise politically in terms of political representation? What we need to know is what happens in that room where that choice is being made in all the political parties, because it's across political parties. Why is it that we do not have women on the ballot? Because from where we're sitting, we can see an accumulation of institutional barriers, political barriers, psychological barriers against women in representational politics. So at the end of the day, which woman would appeal to Nigerians on the ballot? Which woman will Nigerians be given the meaningful opportunity to vote for? That's the question we should be asking, because clearly there is exclusion. But what can we do about it? That's the question you asked me. What we should do about it is to find out from the people in the room when these decisions are being made. What happened in Osun State? We're waiting for the elections now. Why is it that all of them are men?
Ronke, 72 out of 1,534 seats. I think that's about 4%.
It's small.
4%.
It's just when I saw that data, I was ashamed.
How many ladies aspire to be politicians? From that, when you speak to kids in secondary school, you don't hear them saying, I want to go into politics. So I think it's something that should also be part of the curriculum. Leadership for females. We kind of still believe in conventional female roles, male roles, and a lot of women do not believe that it is their place. Society doesn't help either. You find that a lot of them, that 4%, if you look at it, most of them are over 40.
Absolutely.
Over 40 is when the courage starts. Over 40 is when the children have probably left the nest. and then they go for it. Now, when you think about the environment, the political environment, I can remember one time I was considering politics as well, just like Zumah. Yeah. So I read in the papers, and I don't want to say this is what happened, but this is what I read in the papers. It was Etiosa local government, and some ladies had been put in position of there's something in the local government. The first one died after 56 days.
Yeah.
The next one was
That was last
installed.
year.
She died again. The third one was installed. She died again. Would you like to be the fourth?
Spiritual capacity.
So things like that. Now, when you also think about what happened to Lady Natasha, it's not really, it doesn't make it appealing at all to want to go into politics. Another thing about society is that there are women that are not married that would like to go into politics. Stigma again, they will start. She's not married, she wants to go
That's
into
the culture
politics.
about
So when we begin to dismantle all those stereotypes and cultural beliefs, then we'll see more women in position.
We still run this motor park Agbero kind of politics here. And it would not naturally attract a woman. It won't. No woman wants to be sacrificed because she wants to lead, because she wants to provide leadership. So if you want women to get involved, we need to be intentional. We need to say, come on, guys, this playing turf, we need to make it appropriate for women to play. As simple as that. No, because look at Natasha, for instance. That lady has become a dragon, just trying to lead. And I don't think she's enjoying whatever she's doing, because the other day, Yaya Bello was on TV, on camera, threatening a woman. Nobody said anything today.
And getting away with it.
And getting away with
Look
it.
at Ogun State. We had Yayi there. We had Modele Sarafa Yusuf.
You
We
understand?
had Yabo Basanjo.
And nobody
Consensus
threatened
and
your life.
Order from above. They took Yayi. It didn't matter whether the other women were there or not. It was overwhelming. They didn't matter.
The case of Kogi for me is irritating because it's been happening every time Yaya Bello is interested. But it is not all hopeless situation. I mean, Lagos State, for instance, has produced several senators.
So, contrary to popular opinion, change doesn't begin at the ballot box. It begins with getting on the ballot in the first place.
Contrary to popular opinion, motherhood isn't the exclusive preserve of those who have biological children. I met a young lady who became pregnant by a married man with 3 children. She was vulnerable, and instead of judging her, I chose to stand beside her. Today, I have a relationship with her and her baby. I see that child at set times because I have a life and responsibilities. Love does not require me to abandon my life. It requires me to make room in it. And that is why I want us to have an uncomfortable conversation about adoption. We have created so many rules around motherhood. You must have your own child, preferably a boy, preferably by a certain age, preferably biologically. Yet, culture is something we create to serve humanity. We were not created to become prisoners of culture. We once killed twins because of cultural beliefs. We changed. We must be willing to change again. Some people say, what about diseases? What about the risks? What if the child becomes difficult? There are risks in almost everything we do. We don't abandon every possibility because risks exist. We build safeguards. And adoption must never mean getting a permanent house help. It must never mean sending your biological children to private school while the adopted child gets leftovers. That is not adoption. That is exploitation. I also want to speak to women, married or unmarried. Do not let society convince you that your worth depends on producing a child. And having one child does not mean you must keep searching for another one simply because someone wants a male heir. I have one child. I have a daughter. I am extremely content. I don't need a son to complete me. Meanwhile, we send our children abroad and later complain, who will look after us? They don't come home. Look around you. There are children everywhere who need someone to invest in them, not as charity, but as family, responsibility, and love. The child on the street today may become tomorrow's danger because we refused to see them. Maybe the emptiness we are trying to fill with biological children could sometimes be filled by giving a child who already exists a home. We are all children of God, yet He is not our biological father. Perhaps love has never been as biological as we think.
Well, I'm an adoptive father. I have 2 adopted kids.
Legally adopted or fostering them
Adopted.
through proper legal means.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think it's still one of the best things that's happened to me. It was a default setting. It was an attitude I developed while we were trying to conceive. I mean, it was a very tedious period, 3 years of, fertility treatment. And eventually my wife was told, or we were told, that my wife cannot conceive. I said, so you know what, we're going to wait for 5 or 6 years and we'll go to any orphanage. Specifically, I mentioned the one run by Yinka Ogunnubi. We'll just go there and just, in fact, the word I used was, we just pack 4 children. That stuck in my head. So the first pregnancy was a very difficult one. The second one was also difficult. But this was a woman who had been told, you can't conceive. But this mentality of, I said 4, we went to bed, and then there was an opportunity. I said, okay, I think we should just, I've made up my mind that I was going to do this. Even though I didn't understand the implication, I didn't know what I was saying, I didn't know how, how this journey would look as at that time. And we did. Looking back, that's about 12 years ago. Looking back, and I think I also credit my biological children, the ease with which
They integrate.
yes, everybody integrated, blended, and so today, I think it's one of the best things that happened to me, and which is why I have this attitude when people tell me they've been waiting for 18, 19 years. I don't enjoy those stories. Why are you waiting? Why you're waiting to have your biological child? Why don't you try to listen to people who have adopted and see if their stories can persuade and inspire you to adopt? And it is also not saying goodbye to having your biological children, but the pressure that I in my course of engaging with couples who are trying to conceive, man, that pressure is crazy. And I think you can tone it down through adoption.
There's something you didn't mention, and I don't know whether that was intentional, was about surrogacy. I don't know whether you wanted to sidestep that, but it's all in the same frame of the family of this conversation, that women...
They will still say you didn't carry it. It's still this culture and society.
It's the culture thing, the fact that, okay, did it come out of your own womb or whatever? And that pressure is what leads women to keep doing these circles of IVF that's failing and failing, and they keep doing it. But the pressure is so much because of what society has told us is what is expected of a woman.
Because they will still judge you if it's cesarean.
If it's and we need to start to deal with these things. We had our own challenge as couples. I knew from the point when we got married that my wife could not have a biological birth. I knew it. We both knew it. We knew that every
What do you mean
pregnant
by biological birth?
No, natural
couldn't
birth.
have a natural birth.
Delivery.
Delivery, the natural delivery. We knew it, and it wasn't like we were, kidding around it. And so from the get-go, we had made plans for how that was going to be. There's nothing wrong with a woman adopted. There's nothing wrong with the family going to surrogacy. Well, let us not demonize it by condemning things that we don't understand better. There's nothing wrong with a woman freezing her eggs.
Absolutely nothing.
There's nothing wrong with it.
So my message is to couples. It's important for people generally. It's important for you to live life on your own terms and define what success means to you and not necessarily what the society expects from you. And even after defining what success means to you, you should be able to focus on the outcome and not the process. Society will tell you, grow up, get a job, get married, have children. Okay, is that what you want for yourself? Do you want to get married? If you don't want to get married, you don't have to do it. Do you want to have, even if you choose to get married, do you want to have children? Because not everybody.
Women are coming out to say
Yeah.
they're not even happy being parents.
Even ones who are happy, do they have the capacity? Because being a parent is beyond just being able to procreate. Do you have the mental, physical, financial bandwidth to actually be a parent? So say you've decided that, okay, yes, I want to have children. Success to me means having children. Children is what you want, not pregnancy. The outcome is you can adopt, you can do surrogacy. Like there's so many pathways to having this. Don't be too focused on any outcome and put yourself in a position where you are depressed and unhappy over things that you can actually control. But beyond that, back to adoption, there are, beyond the sociological barriers and financial barriers, there is like a major religious barrier to adoption. There are certain religions where adoption is not recognized. I mean, an adoptive child cannot adopt the family's name and is not eligible for inheritance. So,
what religion is that?
Islam.
What?
Islam does not recognize adoption. You can foster, but you cannot adopt that. And then most importantly, if you can't love a child, irrespective of how they turn out, you shouldn't bother having one. Irrespective of whether they are biological or adopted. If you say, no, how about if they have diseases? If your child have diseases, will you throw it away? I mean,
Nigerians are generally judgmental people.
Yep.
Right? You've seen a woman who has tried adoption a few times. I remember when I went to Ogun State to adopt, and you go through the ministry, the man right there was telling me, ma, are you sure you have tried everything? Do you really think should be your next thing? Because as I'm looking at you now, you're still young. You know I look young. So you're still young. Well, on Zoom, in WhatsApp. Because you're so young, everything he said that day was just triggering. Oh my goodness. We need to train those people behind the desk, adoption desk at the ministries. That's number one. Now, biology is not the highest proof of family.
Yeah.
Some of the most consequential relationships that we have in our lives were not determined by blood.
Absolutely.
So we need to understand that, number one. Number two.
Number three.
Oh, number three, Raga.
Good job.
I like that one.
Your
I
sheet
like
was
that you
full.
made a distinction, between adoption and exploitation. You could get a child and you begin to give preferential treatment to your own children against that child. So we need to understand that when we say adoption, we don't mean that just go get a child that does the sweeping of the floor while your own is watching, Two questions again come to mind here. Why are we determined to produce children when we have existing children who don't have parents? And they swell by the day. If you go to IDP camps, you will see children without parents there, which brings me to the system. So it's good to talk about adoption, but the Nigerian adoption reality is totally different.
Yeah.
It is tough
Very,
to get any child adopted in Nigeria of today.
Especially Lagos State.
Lagos, Ogun, or everywhere, Nigeria's reality.
It's easier
It's easier
in the
outside
north.
because I've tried
So
it.
we
Actually,
cannot romanticize
easier in
adoption.
the
I mean,
north.
it's beautiful the way you've said it, but the Nigerian reality is grim. We need to bring these things home to people that you don't necessarily have to have your own child. You can adopt. And it is not strange to adopt. You are healthy because we're all adopted children of God.
Yes. The proof of true love is when it is unconditional and even inconvenient. A child doesn't have to come from you to be the recipient of your love.
All right, Ronke, true love goes beyond boundaries. Let's just journey beyond boundaries to confront the challenges of a sector in desperate need of an ecosystem. A significant part of Nigeria's economy operates informally. The woman selling food by the roadside, the tailor working from home, the mechanic, hairdresser, and countless small businesses operating outside formal employment structures. The informal economy is not peripheral to Nigeria. It is the mainstay of Nigeria. It was our saving grace during COVID. Our creative economy operates within that same space. Artists, filmmakers, musicians, fashion entrepreneurs, writers, and content creators are creating, producing, and employing every day. From Afrobeats to Nollywood, from fashion to digital content, Nigerian creativity has become one of our most visible exports. And as Olumide Yonda reminded us at the Creative Powerhouse Summit, creativity is no longer simply entertainment or cultural expression. It's a global currency. But as Nigerian creativity grows, is Nigeria growing with it? That question became real to me during my panel section with Joke Silva, MFR, Kiki Efeomorogbe, and Fisayo Fusudo. Kiki spoke about the need for film villages to ease production. Auntie Joke brought the filth enveloping Glover Memorial Hall. Efe, as a talents manager, spoke about creative governance and good contracts that can keep musicians and businesses and out of trouble. The call was clear from everyone: stronger infrastructure, intellectual property protection, management, and investment. Now, investment should support not only talents, but the studios, the labels, the companies that are built around them. Then came the question of bankable enterprises. The national coordinator of IDICE, Ife Adebayo, who was the keynoter, spoke about financing available through the initiative, a $45 million debt fund, a $65 million Islamic finance facility, and equity options to attract private and global investments. These funds are critical. But I found myself wondering how many creatives in the informal sector can access them. Many need more talents managers, yes. They need investment managers also early enough to help turn talent into sustainable, bankable enterprises too. So the question is no longer simply, where is the money? The money is beginning to show up. But are we building the bridges that will get these monies to the creatives who need them most? Because talent alone cannot build a globally competitive creative industry. Talent needs an ecosystem.
How old is the Carnegie Hall in New York, for instance? It's over 135 years. It's still standing today. You go to New York City, it's one of the tourist attraction that's there. How old is the Cincinnati Music Hall? It's over 140 years old. How old is Nigeria National Theatre? It's just 50 years old. But then it's run down. We don't seem to invest in that infrastructure.
Yeah.
So a lot of right now in Nigeria, when we talk about Nollywood and our music industries, we should have film villages. We should have infrastructure, really. The way we talk about Hollywood today. You go to Hollywood, you find all the systems, the infrastructure is in one place for you to be able to grow in that industry. In Nigeria today, we don't have that. Investors will not invest in an industry where they cannot see the money clear.
Yeah, but the creativity is intangible,
Yeah, but yeah, that's what we keep hearing, and that's the reason why I think the last time we had this conversation, I was giving an example of somebody in Hollywood artist who came to me to ask me to invest in a movie, and I said, okay, what is the ROI and what are the terms? And the person will say,
what is the ROI?
Just bring 5 million. When you bring 5 million, we will do this. We will do. And I said, no, I want to see a proper budget. I want to see a proper business case, a proper statement of accounts and all that. What have you done before? I think we also need to teach the talent industry business education.
I'm going to start by spotlighting Godwin Tom of Sony, Nigeria. What he's doing with the Creative Industry Initiative for Africa is largely around building an ecosystem for the creative industry, training young people across both the technical and the business side of being a creative. In the year 2026, as a creative, talent is not close to enough. Your success is dependent on more than just your skills. You need to understand the business side of your business. You need to understand how value is captured. The entire value chain, from the time you say, you hold the mic and say something,
testing.
Till money gets into your account, you need to understand how the process goes and all the different people that comes into play before, money gets in, and where the money is supposed to go when it gets in. I want to write on what Yinka said regarding that we don't have a system. We do. We've come a long way from where we were 10, 20 years ago. The industry is evolving. We're seeing investors invest in, I could remember Femi Adebayo did a consortium to fund his last movie.
Yes.
I know people who invested in it. I've had people send decks of movies, but those are only the 1-2%. A lot of others in the creative industry, they can't particularly articulate, what it is they are trying to achieve. They can't do revenue projection. They just say, if I put it on YouTube, it will give me this. No. If we go to the cinema, we'll make this. No, how does my money come back to me? They can't explain it. And also because the movie industry in Nigeria used to be funded by illicit funds. And then we are now going back to the era of, they're trying to pull legitimate funds in. Illicit funds, you're trying to launder it. So you don't particularly need to make business case with it. But now, there are trails everywhere. I believe that we should give, when they say put some respect on it, the creatives a bit more respect. I do understand that.
Maybe they should be respectable as well.
Yes, they do need to be respectable. My daughter is studying sound engineering. She's in her final year. But she's not only studying sound engineering, she's studying sound engineering and business. Because the legal work is important. Publishing and all those things are important. Now, the people that are successful in this creative industry, some of them, what do they do on social media? 500 million in the box office. 300, 1.7 billion. I made... This one has triggered me.
Let me come to you, Kingsley.
This one has, because they mislead these young people. So what they do, instead of going to look for a way to even certify or even sit under someone, what they do is they open a YouTube channel, believing that the minute they open a YouTube channel, do whatever, they will just get the dollars coming in. And then they are surprised after 1 year that they only got $2.50 coming into their accounts because they don't understand. And I also believe that a lot of these creatives that are successful should be willing to mentor and get these children under their wings.
We have the Ministry of Sports Development. We have the ministry responsible for sports. Bad as underperforming as they are, they still have provided the direction for whoever wants to support sports, right? So if you want to create this ecosystem, how would you do it?
So, but we already have a ministry that has that underneath.
Correct.
Creative economy.
So that ministry, we need to put this challenge on their doorstep. Can you provide the leadership for creating an ecosystem for creatives to thrive? 1. 2, IDICE you talked about. I'm surprised to know that Bank of Industry and the Islamic Bank of all banks, I'm shocked, has contributed so much, over $617 million. That's huge. So if you have done that, I think that's the heavy lifting, isn't it?
It is.
So the next thing
is
to promote what you do and attract the people that you want to help. Why would you have so much money and nobody knows you have them?
You watch American movies and you see some iconic names. Columbia, Universal.
Yes.
They've been there for years.
Yeah, those are
They've grown.
organizations.
That's the point. Exactly that's the point I'm raising. Okay? That is, you have to find a way of channeling private capital, all right, into these organizations. These organizations can then go and seek loans from banks because individuals cannot do it. So we build these organizations, not individual organizations where Funke Akindele is doing this one is doing that. No.
They've been pushing IDIs for the past about 2 years now. I mean, and then you as a creative, you are in an industry, you don't know this fund exists or how to leverage, you don't know what to do. A simple Google search will help you, or go to their office. I mean, it's not rocket science. You can't keep telling government to say government should do this, government should. What are you doing as an individual to better yourself? And riding on what Yinka said, there's not a lot of cohesion in the industry.
If we neglect to build efficient systems that facilitate productivity, we're contributing to the very dysfunctional society we lament about day and night.
Right, I'll bring it home, Funke. The society we fail to invest in becomes the breeding ground for area boys who will one day invade the system that governs us. There is a resurgence of the area boys menace in Lagos. The last week has been hell for motorists around the Lekki-Ajah axis, where area boys barricaded roads, causing traffic bottlenecks and smashing vehicles of drivers who refused to give them money. Several of them were arrested, and the situation was brought under control. But these guys aren't going anywhere. There was a time when area boys were merely irritating features of the city of Lagos. A young man at the bus stop demanding money for doing absolutely nothing. Today, that young man has evolved. He has discovered what I call taxtortion. If you park your car, you pay. You load your goods, you pay. These levies are for the owners of Lagos. For decades, Lagos has produced several young men without enough jobs, skills, or legitimate economic opportunities to absorb them. To survive, these men created a street economy. They play in the transport sector, markets, parking, loading points, security, touting, and eventually extortion. But poverty alone does not create area boys. If it did, every poor Nigerian will be carrying a weapon and collecting development levy quote. Impunity is the issue here for me. And our politicians have long understood the value of young men who can turn intimidation into a political instrument. The same boys who can mobilize crowds can disrupt them. And so, a strange career progression emerged, from school dropout to street boy, from political thug to union enforcer, and then to a respectable stakeholder. Everybody pretends not to understand the system until election season. Suddenly, that fellow who sits at the junction, smoking weed and collecting levies from Okada and Keke Napep operators, might be in charge of mayhem and ballot snatching on election day. Lagos cannot arrest its way out of this problem while leaving the ecosystem intact. Arresting area boys without dismantling the illegal economies that sustain them is like killing mosquitoes without deliberately maintaining stagnant water. The city must attack the whole chain: unemployment, drugs, illegal collections, weak policing, political patronage, and the powerful men who occasionally use area boys to achieve their goals.
Lagos is not the one producing these young men. Most of them are from other states who came to Lagos to hustle and have chosen to exploit the inadequately governed areas of Lagos. It's, I don't know, I don't even know where to start from. I mean, Lagos itself is seeing shege for, from all of, and I think we as individuals, particularly the celebrities, are enablers of this culture. There was a video I watched on the internet. These guys were mentioning specific names of celebrities who give them
money
when they pass by, and how much they give them. And then they were calling out others, that you bought a 200 million naira car, you now give us maybe 7,000 or something. I'm like, Why?
Where is that?
Where is that coming
It's
from?
entitlement mindset.
Yeah, the entitlement mindset.
Why is it? And I mean, they were literally calling up names. But kudos to Lagos State government. At least they made the first step of trying to get rid of them on the roads.
Yeah.
They will come back, but then how do they want to manage it going forward? I also watched the video of one of the estates managers saying they have started chasing them away from the front of their estate, that they are the ones who commit crimes, petty crimes around. So we all, beyond what the government is doing, we all need to take individual responsibility and not enable and accommodate these people.
There has to be an alternative. If you take something away, you have to
Provide
provide something for them to do. So community service, apprenticeships, vocational work, you need to engage them. They can't just sit down because it's an economy. There's a business model behind it.
You know, they have a nuisance value.
This is how they are sustaining themselves. So if we don't give them something else to do, then they will continue to behave in this manner. You know, I talked about the beggy culture a while ago. This
is
sense
much more
of
than begging.
entitlement. You know, Zumah gave the example of that video. I saw that video where the guy was saying that somebody is giving him ordinary how many 200 naira notes. He was even saying that they continue to enable these people by these acts. If we're not giving them the money and we're working hand in hand with the government, but the thing is, they will come back.
You go to every state in this country, you will find thugs, people who will be used by politicians for this. So I think we need to separate it from the whole political thing. You said your monologue, you said these levies are for the owners of Lagos. I think Zumah mentioned most of them are not from Lagos. That's the reality. You know, and I'll give an example. During NSAS, for instance, we had a situation where some boys came and camped in front of our estate, you know, and they didn't allow us to drive out or drive in. And we knew that it was a form of intimidation.
Okay.
So we decided to go and confront them. You know, myself and a few other people in the estate went to meet with them. And when we got there, we asked, "Who is your leader?" So they pointed at two people. So I remember asking one of them, "What's your name?" The guy said, "Namdi something." I was lost. How is somebody from the southeast or Monile in Lagos? It just didn't make sense. But the guy was entrenched. It was obvious that he was their leader. The reality is this: if we are going to solve this problem, we are going to be willing to take some tough decisions. And some of those decisions will be uncomfortable decisions. Fashola did it at some point, all right? And people came at him when he deported some people. Of course, there's a constitutional angle of it. So the recommendation for me, for instance, is that can Lagos State, for instance, decide to invest in maybe farming or some kind of industry or whatever, maybe outside of Lagos where there's more land, and take these people.
These guys can be
utilized.
Maximized.
Yes.
Can be tax collectors.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like we need to be ready to take some tough decisions. And I'm saying it here because if the government starts to take these tough decisions, it is us here as well that will take up the mantle and start to criticize government.
When we talk of Agberos, area boys in Lagos, people tend to say, oh, it was the former Lagos State Governor, Bola Tinubu, who is now the president who
is enabling them.
Who enabled them, but that's not true. I read a piece by Rashid Ujikutu in The Guardian of 10th July 2022. It's titled Agbero, Area Boys, Hoodlums, and Bola Tinubu. And if you read that particular piece, that newspaper article, you see that the history of Agberos or area boys are quite different. Area boys, they preceded the Civil War back in the 50s. And it was traced to a certain bushura of Ebutero around who used to hang around Ebutero at Idumota. So essentially, this is a governance problem. Now, I'm glad that you talked about Fashola, because he really did excellently when he governed Lagos, in reading Lagos of these people. So it is about why Lagos has not been able to effectively control these set of people. It's not just about political patronage. It's not just about poverty. It's not just about unemployment. It's that there are people who are alternatives to the official people who make us pay. Call them taxtortionists. There shouldn't be a street alternative to taxing.
To tax collection.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if you are an NURTW, because you can't talk about area boys and not talk about NURTW.
Oh, sure.
But so because this is peculiar to Lagos. So if NURTW has people on the streets, on the roads, that they've enabled to be collecting money from Keke Marwa and the bus riders or drivers and all of that, who is enabling them? Is a right.
But do you know, local government chairmen engage these guys to collect money?
So that's where I'm coming.
So they feel wanted and recognized.
No.
We are not sure, because we have to be very careful about.
I think we're mixing a lot of groups together, and we're putting them under one umbrella.
Yeah.
Remember that I said Agbero, area boys, hoodlums.
Yeah.
So there are three distinct groups of people. Okay. So you see, it's a governance problem. If these people exist on the street, you've talked about the local government. That is the closest to the people. They should be resolving this for us, not even the governors.
Happy that we're having this conversation, because sometimes when we talk about the issues of Lagos, many people make it look like, oh, it's easy. It's Lagos has an invasion problem.
Yeah.
Right.
It has to be able to provide leadership at all levels and solve all problems that have been migrated into Lagos by other states.
Anyway, change must be holistic.
They say what they do.
It is to be effective. Area boys don't just emerge. They are the product of a chain of dysfunctionality, and that chain must be destroyed.
Must be destroyed.
I absolutely agree with you, Kingsley. On the one hand, area boys are aggressively reaping where they have not sown. On the other hand, our religious houses are encouraging their attendants to covet unmerited favor. Do you see a connection? The average Nigerian prayer point and cultural aspiration has become the pursuit of unmerited favor, the desire to reap what we have not sown, build wealth without creating corresponding value, and receive without any intention to give back. While framed as a spiritual blessing, this mindset has quietly become one of the primary cultural drivers of corruption, eroding our national work ethic and blurring our collective ethical lines. When an individual receives an opportunity without the required competence, it is often celebrated in religious gatherings as unmerited favor. Yet, the real-world outcome is predictable: substandard delivery, systemic failure, squandered public resources, and a complete breakdown of public trust. What is hailed as a personal testimony on Sunday or Friday becomes a public calamity by Monday. Religious institutions hold unparalleled influence over the Nigerian psyche. However, by continually promoting shortcuts to success and elevating unmerited favor above diligence, faith leaders have unwittingly incentivized the circumvention of process. We need to build a functional society where religious houses shift their messaging from sanctifying incompetence to preaching value creation, and reframing favor as when faith meets preparation. The focus should return to merited favor, where grace meets diligence, integrity, and exceptional skill, rather than replacing them. A nation cannot pray its way out of developmental stagnation while actively sabotaging meritocracy. Shifting this culture requires an intentional commitment at both the personal and structural levels. As individuals, we must learn to reject unearned advantages and turn down opportunities for which we are genuinely unqualified, recognizing that accepting them directly deprives someone who earned them and harms the wider community. Institutions must prioritize merit-based systems, and collectively, we need to bring back social accountability and stop celebrating unexplained wealth or sudden success that lacks a clear, legitimate path of value creation. Nigeria's progress relies on replacing the pursuit of unmerited gain with an unyielding commitment to competence, accountability, and hard work. Real growth is not found in reaping where we did not sow, but in cultivating a system where everyone's honest labor can bear fruit.
I was into Zumah. Are you telling me now
Yeah.
that if I apply for a job that I'm not qualified for and I'm accepted, I should reject the offer?
Your God is not working over, right?
Oh, that is the Lord's doing, and it's marvelous in our sight. Come on now. But Zumah, I think there's somebody you're talking to.
No. I mean, no one comes to mind, but
Yes.
I'm just saying.
But come to think of it, in our system, there's a line between unmerited favor, indeed, that you did not circumvent the process,
Yeah.
from corruption, where you induced somebody, or because you had a godfather, godmother, god uncle, and all of that, I think that's where the problem is. Okay, so I wish you drew the line very clearly so we can know which is which. Yes. Because unmerited favor is a euphemism sometimes for corruption. You have twisted the process and now you're testifying. I think
in Christian theology, unmerited favor really is not asking for, is not rewarding incompetence.
Exactly.
That is not what Christian theology is about. It is not, and I've written it somewhere here, it is not excusing corruption.
Mm-hmm.
It is not accumulating or acquiring wealth without value creation.
Yeah.
When you hear grace, it is different from entitlement and corruption in Christian theology. So when people say, Lord, I want grace, give me grace to be able to do, you already have a basic takeoff point. You already have something going on for you. And you're saying, God, I don't have anybody in that place. But Lord, with you being a light unto my path and a lamp unto my feet, I can get there. You know? You understand? So the thing is, we cannot ask people.
But you draw the line.
We cannot ask people to stop asking for favor, right?
Yeah.
But what we need to do is to ask them to stop confusing favor for entitlement.
That's the word.
And the national conversation we should be having right now is about building institutions, right? Where favor cannot routinely displace competence.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And accountability. That is where the question is. So if you're giving me a job, am I competent to do it? Or is because I'm the cousin of your uncle who is married to your sister's brother and something?
Yeah.
It's not just that, because culturally that's what we do. But am I competent? Would I give account of what I've done?
As a beneficiary of unmerited favor. I believe that faith without works is void, and that's what we teach as Christians. I believe I've not actually experienced this in the church, to be honest. And you know that I pick up on any preacher that is saying rubbish. I've not personally experienced where it's been abused. What I was interpreting was perhaps corruption, as Auntie Funke was.
Yeah.
That's what I'm. See, when I went to the UK to study medicine, when I finished, I decided I didn't want to do sciences anymore. I went into banking, and I didn't really know what I was doing. I did the interview and I got the job. I knew that the pay grade was way beyond me. I knew that I didn't really have the skills yet to do it. But my interviewer said, I think you can do it. I gave my testimony unmerited. And it was.
Yeah.
And that is what I understand as unmerited favor. When I came to Lagos 14 years ago, I had not lived in Lagos as an adult. I didn't have any friends. I didn't have any connections. I didn't know how things would be. Things are good today. It's unmerited favor. I didn't actually have all those connections and all those things I would. That's what I understand as unmerited favor. What I actually believe happens in our society, the algorithms promote incompetence. Our society is, I think, what does that unmerited favor as opposed to the church.
I think as a Christian, you cannot divorce your faith from grace.
That's
Okay.
right.
The whole concept of grace is that Jesus came and died for our sins while we're as people who didn't merit it. But what we've seen, Ronke said she's not seen abuse, but I've seen it everywhere in terms of our churches and pastors abusing that grace. I saw a video recently of a pastor giving a testimony of how he got a US visa without applying.
That's a lie.
But
But he's selling it.
But that's where the problem is. He's a pastor.
Spiritually.
He has influence. He's given a testimony. All right. And he tells people that it's possible for you to get a US visa without applying by just going and escorting somebody to the American embassy, and then the visa officer just grab you and say, I want
through the
you.
restroom door and enter Germany.
Another one, yeah.
That's kids.
So, but these are people
Yes.
who have a lot of influence,
Right.
okay? And they speak to thousands, if not millions of people.
Yeah.
And there are people in that audience who were clapping that day, who after that leave and go and believe that they can just escort somebody to the
spread it.
whatever, and then they will get a visa. The people will believe in miracle money. That all they just need to do is just go to meet a prophet, and then a declaration, and then hundreds of millions of naira goes into their account. That's the abuse of the whole merited favor thing.
All merited.
And we have to do better. I like and I like to commend my pastor, Pastor Zumah Yahaya, because I remember many years ago, over 20 years ago, he was teaching entrepreneurial class, 7 a.m. in church. Yeah. And he wrote a book there, Start With What You Have. Mm-hmm. And the idea was that you cannot go to the marketplace with nothing. Mm-hmm. Okay? Even before you can harvest, you have to plant a seed. Yeah.
Substance.
We're talking about people who have nothing. They've not invested in education. They've not invested in any business. They've not invested in cultivating any idea. They just believe that by showing up and because on the mandate of a prophet,
the grace is upon them,
they have favor. And we have to disabuse
Zumah, the person you are talking to
that
is
is
finally
that's not right. And when we see pastors, okay, or clergy who say those kind of things, we need to call them out.
Nation building isn't a sprint, it's a marathon. We are talking brick by brick with no shortcuts. Are you ready to roll up your sleeves and do the heavy lifting? Then join us again, same time, same channel, next week. For now, it's goodbye from all of us.
Bye.
Bye.
See you.